talk about your origin story. People want to know that. Like, why did you start this business? Like, what does it mean to you? Because I've had so many calls where people are like, I'm talking to 6 other agencies. I'm like, go do that. I want you to do that. They always come back to me because I'm small, I'm personable. I talk to them. I want to get to know them as a person. And I think that that's really unique.
Welcome to the Coast Podcast. I'm Emily, a virtual assistant agency owner who left Amazon in 2019 to build my dream.
And I'm Whitney, a freelance writer and communications consultant who never felt at home in a cube farm.
We wanted to learn from people who paved their own ways like we did. So we created this podcast to talk to others who were brave enough to pick a different path. Creatives, entrepreneurs, people doing their careers and their lives their way.
Join us as we make new friends, get inspired, and show you beautiful paths less traveled.
Not every road leads to the coast, but the ones that do come with a great view.
Hello and welcome back to the coast. We are doing our special series, which we've been having a lot of fun with, where we ask each other questions or check in about our businesses, which is funny. We coulda, shoulda, woulda been doing this all along, but now we are as we come to our sunset. It's been a fun series for us to really explore each other's expertise and strengths. So today I am asking Emily, as I think of my next steps in my life and career, I've been building, I had an inspired thought by the coffee machine, as I do, about, I was telling myself, or in my brain, thinking, you should just really focus on this publishing thing because you don't want to spread yourself too thin. And then I was like, well, do I have to do just one thing? I could choose to do both really intentionally and well. And I've been, through actually Emily's partnership, poised to do more with my business where I'm working on it versus in it so much. And so I was like, make yourself into a mini agency and then you can support more people and more businesses and yourself in a way that just feels really juicy and good, that gives me, once I set up these processes more fully, which they're kind of already there, into, and now I can be on a Thursday talking about my book and my other business over here while the copywriting business really supports itself in a lot of ways, and creating those gaps of time for me where I can play and have fun and really support other people. So as the agency expert here, Emily has lots of wisdom to share, and I don't even know where we begin with this conversation, but really, I can tell Emily where I've been at. I have mainly one support writer and one of Emily's virtual assistants. And what I would like to grow that to is 2 more support writers and a few really awesome clients, and even doing more of this kind of luxury premium ghostwriting type services versus just pumping out content like a machine. I don't think that's going to be the right moves for us, but it's more of like high touch luxury writing for these Pacific Northwest based businesses and getting their stories out in the world that are really beautiful and meaningful. And in order to do that, there's some things that my assistant is helping me with. So she's organizing me on Trello so that I can organize everyone else. And that's been my favorite platform to do project management out of all the platforms I've had to use with clients. But really, the thing that I'm thinking about the most is networking and client pipeline, which has been something that I haven't needed to do as much as like mostly a solo business, and matching people with businesses, and also like how much I dip in. Because I know that Emily doesn't dip in much with her clients. It's pretty much she assigns a person and then they're off on their own. And for me, the beginning will be I'm part of at least the upfront of most of these projects, and then slowly taking myself out. But that kind of balance of like, where do I participate in projects and how much of myself do I need to give, like in networking and being on TikTok to get all these clients coming and knocking on our door. So that's where my brain's at with it.
So there's a lot here, obviously. And when I coach clients, I typically coach them and there's kind of two buckets. There's like professional women who want to build businesses online, and then there's people who have businesses online who want to scale to agencies. So like I do this all the time. And the way that I encourage people to start thinking about it is think about your business the same as a giant corporation, right? So like you have all of these buckets, and you've heard me in my delegation talks talk about this, but there's all these different buckets. So imagine, even if you don't right now, imagine there's the sales team, there's the marketing team, there's the like client relationship team, there's the IT team, tech team, and then there's like the financial team, right? So break those all out and then write processes as if your corporation is or your company is big now. Because I don't know, something that I learned at Amazon, I don't know if something that you grabbed onto as much as I did, but it was that we work backwards, right? So we dream really big and we're forward thinking 5 years in the future, and then we work backwards. So envision your business and you're building out all these teams and these like processes and what processes go in each department and then working from there. So that's kind of how I like to kind of set people up to start thinking about things so that when you have an idea, you can assign it to one of those departments, right? Because as an entrepreneur, as we're building these big businesses, all these ideas float around in our brains. And something you said was lead generation. And you're going to take that lead generation and stick it in your sales bucket, right? And you're going to take that networking and you're going to stick it in your marketing bucket and your TikTok and stick it in your marketing bucket. So it's you have to have somewhere for all these thoughts to go. Otherwise, you're going to get too overwhelmed. Because building an agency is a complex process, right? Something that you really need to focus on that you haven't needed to focus on before is a whole new department, which is your HR, right? So you're like people operations. So once all the other things are kind of like built out and in the skeleton form, even, you want to focus on that people operations. So you determine like what services you're going to offer. Like you're saying you want to do this like really luxury ghostwriting thing and less of the churning out content, but is that going to be one branch? And is the ghostwriting going to be another service you offer? And so you need to just determine for me, and she's a given, I tried a bunch of things and before I finally settled on, okay, we provide executive assistant support. And I think that's how a lot of agencies should start. You should try a bunch of things and see what fits and what flows. For me, focusing just on the executive assistant thing, and maybe for you, focusing primarily on ghostwriting or whatever you decide to focus on, for me, it went down to the ease of hiring. So the virtual assistant industry is very wide and unregulated, as I'm sure the writing industry is. Anybody can call themselves a writer. There's probably different buckets that they fall under, but like when you're looking at a writing resume, right, or a writing portfolio, what exactly are you looking for? And for me, that was like at least 3 to 5 years of experience as an executive assistant in a corporation, and they know how to work remotely. So that's my minimum barrier to entry, right? So for me, having that concrete thing that I'm looking for was really, really helpful in hiring because when I open up a role, I'm getting literally 250 applicants in an hour. Well, not in an hour, but in a day, 250 applicants. And so it's like, holy crap, I have to go review all these. So if you have a really black and white set of criteria, I'm looking for this, 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 something you'll learn too is you have to decide whether you're willing to play in the gray area. Because sometimes if a candidate looks really good and you're like, well, I'm not having to teach you any hard skills. I'm just having you play in this other playground you haven't played in before. I'm not going to teach anybody how to work a Google Calendar or Outlook. We're not doing that, right? We're not teaching people how to correct grammar and punctuation. But if you have somebody that's only been in this specific field and you want them to play over here, you have to determine how much you're willing to play in that gray area and how much risk you're willing to take on people. And I think that your tolerance for that is just going to fluctuate based on how your experiences go. I'm gonna stop there for a second and let you talk because I just monologued for a long time.
No, that's really helpful. And I'm even thinking as we build out these Trello boards just to have those sections for now where I can dump my brain into the sales section, the marketing section, and all of that. And I'm also having Alicia create a Trello board for the other business so that I can just keep my brain organized there
Yep.
so that it doesn't become too overwhelming and I can tackle one thing at a time because right now I'm not hodgepodging it so much, but a client will come in. And so now instead of me taking them on, I'm partnering with one of my writers to
Yep.
do the work and with the goal of eventually lifting myself out. And a lot of it too is how I identify because I've had to be like, somebody from my team will help you versus this is me. And that started with
And it's
rewriting my website
yeah,
and
yeah, which you did really great. You did a great job on that. But that's maybe the hardest thing is because you know how awesome you are as a freelancer. Like I could sell executive assistant services like nobody's business if it were me. Like with my eyes closed,
Mhm.
right? Like, of course I'm great. Of course you want me to work for you. But selling other people is a different mindset.
Yeah.
And you have to get comfortable. And like you know, I hire people that have this experience, and it took me a long time to refine my hiring process. And we put them through these assessments and like paid projects that they have to do before we get them paired with a client, and like all this stuff. Like, I would not hire. I always tell people I would not hire somebody for my team that I would not hire for my internal team, right?
Right.
So for She's a Given marketing, internal marketing, or operations, I would not hire somebody to work with a client that I would not let work inside my business. So it's our names on the business, right?
Yeah.
She's a Given, Pope and Associates. Like it's very personal, and I think communicating that with your clients every single time you have a sales call, every single time you have a discovery call, like this business means everything to me, and I know that you hiring us, you're sharing a part of your soul, and we can't like the I take this very seriously, and I think that
Hmm.
is different. It sets us apart from a big corporation that's just gonna like churn and burn, right? So I think, being really clear about that in your sales call to talk about your origin story. People want to know that. Like, why did you start this business? What does it mean to you? Because I've had so many calls where people are like, I'm talking to 6 other agencies. I'm like, go do that. I want you to do that. They always come back to me because I'm small, I'm personable. I talk to them. I want to get to know them as a person. And I think that that's really unique. But when you're selling, you're still the face of the brand. That's what you have to recognize is that even though you may not be doing all the work, it's still you and your company. And the more culture that you infuse of yourself and like why you do things into your team, it's like that ripple effect and they'll all be, collecting together. Like you hire people who want to share like beautiful stories of these people. You have the same collective want and same collective goals and desires, and it's easier for you to sell in that regard.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've been thinking about the ghostwriting bit since we talked to Rachel, and then I got served some guy's reel on LinkedIn this morning, which is bizarre. But he was talking about how when you identify as a freelance writer, it's that churn and burn type stuff. We can write blog posts. That's things that I've been doing for a long time. But ultimately, like the value proposition is the embodiment of these companies and business owners. And that to me is what ghostwriting is. We are getting in your brain. We are embodying you and coming up with your voice because a lot of people struggle with, I know who I am, but I don't know how to put it together. Like the word puzzle that I always talk about and distilling all of that. We're working on a project now where this woman, she's an engineer and she's starting a business where she's doing consulting for companies where she basically identifies gaps between what they're working, like their operations and their strategy and what they're working on and how to optimize to make the most money and close gaps. And that's a tough thing to, I mean, we have a call with her in a few hours because it's like, how do we humanize this and make you as a person the right person to come in and be like, this is what you need to streamline. This is what you need to get rid of. This is who you need to put in each position. And we get in the body of that person to become them. And that is a really hard job. And that's essentially like I have been ghostwriting for years, and it's just a different way of phrasing it versus freelance writer can be somebody who's on Upwork charging $10 an hour. And that's not what we are. You can't, the puns that we use and who we become is not what's on the internet. And you've been kind of in my ear for years being like, when are you going to scale? And we've had this conversation so many times where I was like, why do you want me to be in a skyscraper? I just saw it as like me to becoming a corporate disaster. And that's not what I ever wanted. And so thinking of there's so much that I can do and serve and help in the world that doesn't have to be just me. It's like creating the container has been really freeing as what does scale look like to me. And so there's a lot more work to be done, but I'm excited that even already I'm able to give one of my writers more money than I've ever been able to give him per month because I made that shift in my brain and now the clients are coming. And then I'm out there talking about the business and getting more people. And what's interesting too is I don't know if you've experienced this in your company, but like when you're an entrepreneurial type person, you want to be out there all the time. You just assume that everybody else does too. And I even had somebody like one of my writers say, I don't want to be out marketing. I just want to do the work. And I was like,
Exactly. And those are the people
oh,
that are really great. Yeah. To hire.
yeah. And this is why you're a perfect fit for me in that way because you just want to do the work and you do it well, but you don't have, I'm learning more and more. So many people are like, not that they want to be an employee, but they want to just be given the jobs and complete the jobs and then go about their life. And not everybody is off hustling every second of the day like
Mhm.
me and
Yep.
loving it too. But that's why I was like, dang, I can really help them and they can help me. And this is like completely synergistic. And before I just thought, oh, I'm just making all these other bosses be on my team. That's not how it is.
No, and you're providing the opportunity for other people to have the flexibility of working from home and working remotely and doing what they love and not have an employer if they don't want to and or have a side hustle if they want to. And some people for us do it full time with us. Some people have a full-time job and they just do it on the side for us to take their kids to Disneyland or whatever. And it's really cool because I always say to people like, I'm going to meet you where you're at. How much do you want to work? Like work as much as you want. That's it's really cool to be able to provide the opportunity because
Yeah.
we built the business. So I think one of the things that you can get creative with is like how you go about delegating the client work, right?
Yeah.
So there's people that I've coached that have like a team approach. So one of my clients does that team approach. So there's a project manager, there's an assistant, and then there's like a operations person. So they all get assigned this one client. And then there's another coaching client. And I do it this way too, is it's one-on-one. So like you get matched with your person and work with them directly. But I think there's like a cool thing where you can do where it's like fusion of that. It's like
Hmm.
you join the discovery, you do the discovery call, right? And then the kickoff call, you do it and your assigned writer is there too. So
Yep. That's what we're
you're
doing today.
listening,
Yep.
you're making sure like you got it. You talk to the writer. You're like, are we on the same page here? Yep. They submit the project to you. You review it, right? You
Yep.
change anything that you need to, and then you send it up to the client, right? So that's like, you're not really, you're, you have an understanding of the project, right? So you can, if things veer off course, you can correct, but you're really there to understand and there to finalize, and then you're good.
I'm really glad you said that. It's super validating because I always figured when you scale, you remove yourself entirely. And that felt, I've worked for agencies that way where I was like, they need to be aware of that. They can't just come in and it's really dysfunctional too, because you'll have the oh, somebody's on maternity leave and then all of a sudden the owner is back on the project and they don't know shit. And it's really awkward because they're just collecting the checks and paying their people to do the work. And when you have that much separation, it can get just embarrassing
It just
because,
it just depends how you want to do it, right? So I don't have anything to do with the day-to-day of my people. But in the event that someone needs to jump in, I can jump in because it's executive assistant work. You know what I
right,
mean? It's boom.
right.
But I think that and I never have had to jump in, by the way, never. But I think that there's an element of training and mentorship that you can do with your people to get them to level you need them to be at without your supervision, right?
Right.
Without your input. So it's like a see one, do one, teach one kind of model, right? So you like, this is how I would do it. This is how you're going to do it. And then you're going to train a new incoming writer to do it the way that I do it, like the Pope and Associates method or whatever. So,
Hmm.
and I think that there's a lot in regards to scaling that we can do is you record the discovery call and you put it in a client file and then you have a questionnaire that the writer is filling out that's like the body of the work, like this is what we're doing, and so that you have those records available to access at any time should anybody have to jump in and pick up. So setting those processes in place is part of building the agency like this, right? So
Yeah.
like and when I say scale, I know that question is really, or that term is like really triggering for some people, like, oh, scale, like automation, that's, ugh. But really, if you start to, you can automate in a personal way, right?
Hmm.
You don't have to send, because I hate the idea of automated emails going out just because I've seen so many instances where I'm like, that doesn't apply to that. Blah. And then they get a thing, the client gets a thing, and I was like, I didn't, that, blah, 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 and you're like, sorry, that was automated. It makes you look stupid. But having everything templated up,
Yep.
that's good. Okay, this is what we do when someone reach out. This is a template that we send, right? And it's already there ready to go. You're going to have to like manually input it if you want, but these are like our typical responses. This
Hmm.
is like typically what a pitch formula looks like when we're pitching a brand, right? So setting up the systems in a way that feels comfy to you, right? So we still need to do things at a larger volume than if we were doing it for just ourselves, but doing it in a way that feels really personable and comfortable to you, that matters too.
Yeah. I love this. I love this conversation because it really validates that there's so many different ways to approach the same goal.
So many different ways. And that's a beautiful point that you're making. Something that I had to really let go of when I started hiring people. Nobody else is you. And you do things really, really awesome your way, and they do things really, really, really awesome their way too. And
Hmm.
there's room for both. And you have to just kind of like let go and embrace the fact like they're experts too if you're hiring them.
Right.
And even if it looks a little different than you would do it, it's still achieving the same goal. The client's still happy. And so that's something that I just had to like just keep practicing, letting go over and over and over. Okay, I wouldn't do it that way, but like you got there the same way.
Yeah,
And not everyone is you, and that's good, right? And embrace everybody's own unique qualities, I think is one of the things that I've had to learn as an agency owner that it comes with repetition. And
for sure. I want you to tell us where people can contact you for these kinds of coaching services.
yeah, so right now I am actually in the process. And by the way, this is a typical coaching session for me, right?
Right.
But we would break down much more in detail. Okay, these are the buckets you're going to do. We're going to sit here and build this in your system. But this is exactly what I do with business owners, and I'm in the process of building out EmilieGiven.com, which I'm going to have my coaching and speaking on instead of a separate She's a Given Academy is what I've decided.
Mm,
So I'm
I love
building that
that for
out.
you.
Yeah, it's gonna make a lot more sense, I think. Like She's a Given Academy was a good thought, but I think if I really embody myself as a coach more, it's gonna make more sense to me. Um,
You're doing the 5-year thing.
the what?
You're doing your Amazon 5-year thing. You're working back from where you want to be
Yes.
in 5 years.
Yes, my PR FAQ. Yeah.
Hmm.
It's embedded. But Yeah, so right now the best way is Instagram at Emily Given. I'm also going to a singular Instagram. Did you see what I did with my highlights?
No.
Yeah, you should check it out. I'm going to
Okay.
delete some of the irrelevant ones, food and dogs, but I put one
Are
for
those
like,
irrelevant? Because I mean, I
no, they're
would,
not. But it's getting to know me, right? But there's like a coaching highlight and a features highlight and a she's a given highlight. So I think I felt really disjointed.
yeah.
So I was so against. I've even said this to you so many times. I think it's cool how you like put it into one brand, but I could never do that. And now I'm like, if anything, it's ease of narrowing it down into one thing that I'm doing.
Isn't it so funny? We're like, well, we've become each other. There's this osmosis of like me
Yes.
becoming more like you in a super positive way and you becoming more like me in a
Yes.
super
Yes.
positive way. Because
Yes.
like as much as I love the beauty of the She's a Given Instagram, it's less personal and it's a
Oh, and
tough balance.
she's a given that Instagram will remain. If you have seen I haven't posted anything in months. It's literally for a client to be like, oh, she has Instagram. She's legit cool. Like, I don't get clients on Instagram. I don't want to get clients on Instagram for the agency. That's just not where I'm going. That's another thing I'll tell you is you know this about marketing, but like, where are your ideal clients hanging out? And
Yeah.
that's where you should invest your marketing into, right?
Yeah.
Like, are they on TikTok? Is it just a maybe some are on TikTok? I just say go balls to the wall in one marketing channel
Yeah.
and then see the results because that's what has really worked for me.
I've been doing balls to the wall on Instagram for years and I'm still there. I like it, but I like different platforms for different things. And for me, being back on TikTok is less about Popa and Associates. It's more about the book
Yeah, and I think that's great.
because I need that message to be spread internationally.
Yeah, but that's a
And
different target market audience
right,
too. Like it's
right.
different. So just just figure out where you're going with your thing and focus on one marketing channel, balls to the wall, and see where it gets you.
Mhm.
Because for me, that's been SEO, and that's literally where all my clients come from.
Yeah, I love that for you. And I was talking to our friend Mackenzie this morning too. There's this our other friend Jillian got me all hooked up on this platform called Collabster, which is more niche of kind of like to know it, but more like people find you and they're more local. I don't know, for influencer and content creation type stuff. And I was saying to Mackenzie, since everyone has a podcast now, it would be so cool if you could have a podcast plugin because the way to get on a network, you have to have 10,000 downloads per month. And like for something that's super niche and small, it's really hard to get 10,000 per month. We don't even have 10,000 total.
We don't. I don't.
And so to get like between here I am, if I want sponsors, I'm reaching out to them individually to 10,000 a month. That's a big gap. And I think a profile or a platform like Collabster could really bridge that gap by having these people put ads on I mean, it's basically a social platform in some
Mhm.
ways, having a podcast. So that would be a great way to get ads. And maybe that's just me selfishly wanting to have a tie-in that way. Cause you can put a post on your Amazon storefront for $50 or whatever. Like you set your own prices
Yeah.
as gigs basically. And there's no podcast button on any of them. So there's definitely a gap in the market if anybody
You
wants to
should.
fill that.
I was like, you should email them. That'd be great.
Yeah.
By the way, you should do this.
Right.
I never answer your question. You can find me at Emily Given on Instagram or email me, Emily at she'sgiven.com.
Cool. I love it. This is awesome. And
I hope you
probably-
gathered some great information from it.
yeah, I'll be hiring you.